It's a dark night in the animal kingdom. Shadows stir, wings flutter, and somewhere in the distance, a toad croaks, a bat swoops, and a spider spins a silken trap.
Every October, we tell ghost stories. But what if the most frightening creatures aren't ghosts at all? What if they have fur, feathers, scales, or even 8 very hairy legs?
Tonight, we shine a light into the unknown, uncovering the myths, science, and the downright spooky truth about Halloween's most misunderstood animals.
So grab your garlic, keep your flashlight close, and remember, not every creature that creeps is out to get you. Some just have a bad rap.
Welcome to Barking Mad, a podcast by BSM Partners.
We're your hosts, Dr. Stephanie Clark.
And I'm Jordan Tyler. So we're here, we're ready to get spooky, and we have 2 of our colleagues here today. We have David Perez and Kait Wright as Halloween enthusiasts, and Kait as a spider expert, to talk about some of the animals commonly associated with spooky season, as well as some animals that aren't typically associated with Halloween, but maybe we should reconsider. But to kick us off today, David, take us to the movies. You are a movie buff, a scary movie buff at that, and a Halloween fanatic, and all these things are converging around your love for animals and pets. So I want to know, do you have a favorite Halloween movie that features an animal as a main character?
Well, it's not really a Halloween movie, but my favorite scary movie that features an animal is probably Silver Bullet. It is based on a Stephen King novella called Cycle of the Werewolf. So I am a nerd when it comes to stuff like that, but it was originally commissioned. Stephen King was going to make a calendar, a 12-month calendar, and each calendar he was going to write a little excerpt, and somebody was going to illustrate basically the werewolf doing something for each month of the year. But Stephen King never writes anything short. If you've ever read a book of his, it takes him 5 pages to describe a street. So the calendar became a novella, and then somebody wrote a movie around that. So in this case, the movie is actually better than the book. One of the few times that's actually happened. But the movie is about a boy who is in a wheelchair, who discovers that the local preacher is a werewolf. And if I spoiled it, I'm sorry. The movie's been out for like 40 years. So sorry. But yeah, that's probably my favorite horror movie, probably my favorite werewolf movie as well.
Okay. I've never heard of that movie, I'm sorry to say, but I do love that it's a Stephen King thing. And it seems like Stephen King had a thing maybe for making animals key characters in some of his horror books. So we also have Cujo, and I can't remember what the cat's name was in Pet Sematary.
Church. Yeah. After Winston Churchill. So see, I'm a nerd. I know stuff like that. Yeah. And that is a very sad book. Scary book, but a very sad book. It's a family moves into a house in Maine. There's a pet cemetery behind the house where people and kids have buried their dead pets for a long time. The cat dies. You can guess what happens after that.
They did remake it recently, and the remake did freak me out. I did have nightmares about that one, for sure.
Yeah. So, movie and book as well.
So, yeah. Spooky animals are everywhere. They are all over our pop culture, and they have been for a long time. Even being brought up in Shakespeare's Macbeth. Remember, eye of newt and toe of frog, wool of bat and tongue of dog, lizard's leg and owlet's wing. Double, double, toil and trouble. We all know it. And today we'll talk about frogs and toads, bats, lizards, owls, and other Halloween-associated animals. But let's start with a super familiar spooky symbol. the black cat. And I did a little digging, and it turns out that the superstition of like black cats being bad luck or being like a supernatural omen dates back to medieval Europe when Pope Gregory the Ninth in the year 1233, so a really long time ago, declared cats, black cats in particular, as the incarnation of Satan. And so this basically just like kicked off their association with witches and witchcraft. Witches were said to be able to take on the form of a black cat, which is again where that superstition comes from. If a black cat crosses your path, it's bad luck because maybe it was a witch. Cats were also blamed, I learned this in researching for this episode, for spreading the bubonic plague. And so they would like round them up and try to get rid of them. And it actually made the plague spread worse because there were fewer cats around to like catch the rodents that were actually spreading the plague. So totally misunderstood creatures. And it goes to show in other cultures, like in Scotland and in Japan, old folklore in those regions see black cats as symbols of good luck, like prosperity and good health. So like totally turning all of that on its head.
Well, they're wrong.
Are you allergic to cats?
I am.
Only people who don't like cats are always allergic to cats.
Well, the last thing I'll say about black cats, in opposition to David specifically, is that they make really great cats. I had a black cat growing up, and he was the sweetest boy. And a lot of shelters today are kind of trying to get around the stigma by doing like black cat adoption events and campaigns. And there's actually a Black Cat Appreciation Day every year on August 17th. So mark your calendars, David. Looking forward to celebrating with you.
I'll be right there with a mask on.
An EpiPen.
So some fun facts about black cats there. But let's shift to toads. Aside from their association with Witch's Brew in Macbeth, what kinds of spooky lore exist around these croaky creatures?
So I looked up the horned toads, which are not toads, they're lizards, but we can get to that later. But for toads, they actually aren't always bad, right? Like, so they appear bad because of their warty appearance, and they're typically associated as like familiars with like witches, like you had mentioned. But they're actually good for like ancient Egypt. They're a symbol of rebirth and fertility. And then I didn't even think about this, but the frog prince, it's about finding your true worth, and it's found through love and acceptance. But then also in like the East Asian culture, toads are like, they mean wealth. So like the money toad, which I've never heard of, but anyway, those are my fun facts.
Fascinating. I didn't find any of those fun facts. All my fun facts are different and they're all less fun. But I did read about there is this one toad that's native to North America, I believe. But I found an old PSA from the National Park Service. This is back in 2022. And the PSA is urging people to, quote, refrain from licking. Apparently this guy, like this toad, Sonoran desert toad, aka the Colorado River toad, can get up to 7 inches long. So it's like one of the largest toads, I think, in North America. But it secretes this really potent toxin that if you lick it, it like can act as a psychedelic or like a hallucinogen. It could also cause you harm, like you could get sick from it. And so could our pets. So don't be letting your dog lick toads.
Also the toad. Protect the toad from your tongue.
Don't assault toads.
Okay, so toads, check. Maybe not so spooky after all. But don't worry, we have more. Kait, let's talk about spiders. So give us your most fun facts about these creepy crawlies.
So I love spiders. I've always loved learning about them since I was a kid, and my mom got me a book about spiders. And one thing about spiders is I feel like a lot of them have a bad rap as being dangerous or deadly, and that is not true. We will talk a little bit about some of the spiders that actually are more dangerous to humans, but first let's talk about a lot of the myths about spiders and some of the really cute and positive things about spiders. So, one myth is that I don't know if you heard this growing up, but that supposedly you swallow like 6 to 8 spiders in your sleep a year. So, that is a complete myth. I mean, spiders, they don't want to go in there. I'm sure at one point in time somebody had a spider climb in their mouth, but that fact is just made up.
So wait, how many spiders get stuck in people's ears a year?
Ears?
Yeah, do you ever see like the videos of like people pulling like bugs and spiders out of their ears?
No, but to my knowledge, there are no spiders that want to climb in your ears. They don't want you. A few more things to clarify about spiders is a lot of times people they want to talk about like is a spider poisonous? And the correct term is actually venomous. Poison is something you eat. Venom is what bites you. So pretty much all spiders they have venom. So really what you want to know is not is a spider venomous because yeah, it's going to have venom is this venom harmful? And there are only a few genus of spiders that are called medically significant to humans, which means that they are actually dangerous. One myth is about the daddy longlegs, which are actually harvestmen, which while arachnids are not spiders, they are apiliones. And I've heard a myth that they have very potent venom, but just their little fangs are too tiny and they can't break the skin. So, I mean, they do have very tiny little fangs, but they don't have very potent venom. Also, these apiliones, most of them aren't even really hunters. Some of them do hunt little bugs, but also they eat things like mold, dead organic matter, and feces. They don't need a lot of venom for that.
Speaking of long legs, great horror movie, by the way. Just came out last year with Nicolas Cage. Fantastic horror movie.
It has Nicolas Cage as like the crazy guy, and like you would not ever think that it was him.
Yeah, like it may be one of his best performances ever. Very good.
I'll put it on my list.
I feel like him being a crazy guy probably isn't a far stretch for his.
It's not, but like he's in like makeup and like you really can't even recognize him.
Sealing the Declaration of Independence really changed him.
It really did.
Another thing about spider venom is that some venoms are more toxic to different animals, like the Sydney funnelweb spider. While the venom can be dangerous to all animals, it is especially toxic to primates, and that includes humans. Spider bites, they hurt, but they're really not dangerous most of the time. A lot of times they can be likened to a bee sting. And honestly, from the data I've found, the CDC has found that more people die from like bees and yellow jacket stings than by spiders. So honestly, maybe you should be more scared about wasps and bees. So,
Okay, quick question.
Mhm.
Since you brought up Australian spiders, is it true that there is a spider that is in Australia that's so big that it eats birds?
So there are bird-eating tarantulas. I don't know about Australia. I mean, like the biggest spider is probably just like a dinner plate. Even like the Goliath bird eater is like massive in terms of mass. And then there are other spiders and tarantulas that have like huge leg spans. But again, like they're not super venomous or dangerous to humans.
I think more like aesthetically horrifying.
Yeah. I used to think like quarter and nickel size were like massive. Well, I still do think.
The biggest true spider, not a tarantula, is a huntsman spider. So huntsman spiders, I think of them as very derpy. They like harvestmen, they have legs that are like too big for their own good. Like if you walk around the store and you see Halloween decorations with spiders with like crazy long legs just kind of like going everywhere, very gangly. They look a lot like huntsman spiders. If you look up pictures online, like yeah, they're big, but they just look so weird and they're always in weird poses. They're just kind of funny.
Okay, wow. Well, I feel like I just learned a lot about spiders.
I feel like I'm super itchy now. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I feel like I need to take a shower. Well, now that we're all itchy, moving on to another iconic Halloween animal, bats.
So I had to look into all of this. I'm just gonna preface it. Homegirl did her research on all this. Because I was like, yeah, I know bats, Halloween, Dracula, okay. But like, where does this all truly come in? And so they were actually inspired by the vampire bat, which is a species of bat. But they came around, and I feel like everything I looked at is like European folklore, European folklore. So, like, let's just go ahead and preface it that it came from European folklore. But in 1897, there was a novel, Dracula, and Dracula had actually turned into a bat and a wolf. But I don't know why the wolf part got cut out, but he turned into a bat. And so that's where this whole Dracula bat vampire thing came from. However, some fun facts about bats out of like 1,400 species of bats, there's only three that are blood suckers. And they're not even suckers, they lap the blood up. But they've got like detectors and they can figure out like where like the most blood is located. And they do like a silent bite and you can't feel it. But they have an anticoagulant. So that's what we use to like not let blood clump in their saliva, and it's the protein called Draculin.
No.
Full circle, right? Yeah. And they don't even really, I mean, I guess like drinking is a better word than sucking. Like,
Yeah, I never knew there were only a few species that drank blood. I thought all of them were, what's the sanguivores? Which basically means an animal that feeds off of another animal's blood.
but I guess along the lines of bats, we've got ravens and crows. And so ravens and crows can actually be good and bad, depending on where you are and the whole scheme of things. For good, right? We'll start with good first. In the Marvel universe, there is a god, or I don't even know what to call him. His name is Odin, and he has two ravens, and they're supposed to be like a good omen of him.
Wasn't Odin the father of Thor and Loki, and that's where all of the Thor and Loki like movie, they've like totally spun all of that out. There's like a million movies about it now. The king of Asgard.
There we go. I was like, he's like yeah.
A god king, a king god.
But yes, he is Thor's dad. Good for you. Look, I did not know that.
My nerd's showing.
No, I mean, I watch him and then I like, oh yeah, that was great. And didn't realize like anyone was related.
Well, there's so many characters too, so it's hard to keep track.
So many renditions. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
So aside from the Marvel universe, the Bible and Native American mythology use crows to provide provisions and care. So it's a sign of like good things are coming. And then for anyone who watches the Game of Thrones or The Crow, which is a comic, again, nope. They're spiritual guides. So I've never seen the Game of Thrones. I'm behind the times, but I guess there's a crow in there.
There's a crow somewhere in there. I don't
Somewhere in the Game of Thrones, and he is guiding people spiritually.
I did know that crows and ravens are supposed to be like quite intelligent in terms of bird. You think of like bird brain being like birds not being super intelligent, but I think that ravens and crows actually like are, and they have been used like historically for like helping people like with tasks and like messages and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that's part of my bad omen. So perfect segue into it. They're surprisingly smart, and they're known to watch and study human behavior, and they can actually remember faces. So it got me thinking that like birds aren't real. Right, so we're all just being watched by crows and ravens.
Regardless of whether the birds aren't real movement is real, those crows and ravens be watching us. Okay.
Yeah, and they know you. Like if you do something, they're like, I got you. But I thought this was really interesting. So they're bad omens because they're scavengers, which I mean, anyone who lives in the Midwest knows that crows and ravens are scavengers, but they are also known to consume dead bodies, and they're considered the vultures of Europe. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, you are kind of dark. And then their caw, right? Like, it's meant as like a bad omen because it's supposed to be like super jarring and like silent nights. I'm like, well, just because they don't have a pretty song, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I learned when I was looking into owls too. So, speaking of things that fly and are associated with Halloween, an owl's hoot is one of the reasons they're seen as ominous. And I mean, they're also nocturnal. So, really not doing themselves any favors in the spooky department by being nocturnal. But aside from that, their haunting hoots have been seen in various communities throughout history, from the ancient Romans all the way to the Native Americans, as omens of death. So a certain hoot pattern or a hoot from a certain type of owl would symbolize the impending death of a family member. And then another hoot would mean that your friend was going to die, and, so on and so forth. And these sentiments from the Native Americans were passed down to the Puritans and the Europeans that settled early America. They've continued since then. And we still associate owls with Halloween and, spooky, mysterious, creepy vibes, for lack of a better word. But similar to ravens and crows, there are also more positive views about owls. Like the ancient Greeks, for example, saw owls as a symbol of Athena's wisdom. So they were almost worshipped in that way. And then you think of Hedwig from Harry Potter. Like, I feel like that movie went a long way to kind of soften our modern perception of owls being creepy and shifted the narrative to how they're actually super smart and loyal and deliver you all your wizard mail. How great.
I think we all were waiting for the owl to come with our letter.
I freaking wish. If that's how life worked, like real life worked, I feel like I would be just a happier person.
As long as you're not living under the staircase.
True. But, and I'll say this, I said this about bats, I'll say it about owls. Have you ever seen a baby owl? I mean, they're so cute.
So, when I was beginning my journey of loving animals and I was going to be a vet, I actually worked at a wildlife rehab center. I volunteered there when I was in high school, and we actually would take care of owls. And so I remember 16, 17-year-old little me, literally just picking up owls, moving them from one cage, cleaning their cage and putting them back in. It was no big deal. And they were just doo-doo,
looking at you with those big eyes.
Yeah, and they're like, thanks for my clean cage. You're like, oh man.
They're cute. They're freaking cute. Case closed. Okay, so now that we've set the record straight on some of Halloween's most wanted animals, let's shift to some lesser known creeps. When we were planning this episode, Dr. Steph found the most amazing blog post about animals that ought to be represented more during Halloween, but aren't. So, here is us making the case for their creepiness.
They earn their own campfire stories.
That's true. They gotta earn it. But I think there's some compelling cases in here. So, let's start out with my personal nightmare, centipedes. Now, I never knew this for sure because I never wanted to know, but house centipedes have anywhere from 15 to 177 pairs of legs. So on the high end of that, that's 354 legs. With those legs, they can travel 1.3 feet per second. So they're quick little buggers. I do have to admit that centipedes are actually good guys, okay? Just hear me out. They rarely bite humans. They can bite, but they rarely bite. They're more, they'll just kind of get out of your way. They eat other pests. So they eat things like cockroaches, flies, termites, moths, spiders, and other pesky bugs. So they can serve as a form of pest control for some of our other undesirables that are crawling around our homes. So if you see one, it's okay to scream. I'm going to be screaming. But just maybe don't step on it, because it could actually be feeding on other insects that are invading your home that you really, really don't want. So if we can get past the legs, which is going to be hard, I know. It's going to be hard for me too. These guys, actually, they're not that bad.
So our next, less creepy crawly, more fluttery, is, and I'm going to butcher the scientific name, so we'll just call it the death head hawkmoth. Which I'm like, how many names do you need for this? Death head hawkmoth. Anyway, so we may have seen this, Silence of the Lambs or Dracula, and definitely Return of the Native, but it's got a couple of different meanings. And so it symbolizes death, darkness, doom, dun, dun, dun. literally. But other than that, moths in general have been known to be associated with transformation. And so, yeah, this one has a ominous look, but it also, aside from moths being transformative and not very bad, this one bad guy, ominous look and unusual behavior. So that got me thinking, what unusual behavior? Like, what could be so unusual about a moth? So this moth actually squeaks when it's scared. And it eats honey. And so what it does is it raids beehives and it uses its squeak to mimic the queen bee. So the bees stop, freeze, look, and then it just goes in and takes the honey.
Diabolical.
I know, right? And if that wasn't bad enough, as a moth, these caterpillars actually bite. And they're known to eat potatoes, which are nightshades. So all spooky. But I was like, okay, what unusual behavior truly could a moth have? And so those are the unusual behaviors. So on top of that, in the ominous appearance, we have dun dun dun, dark doom and death.
I realize now, as we're going through this, all of these are bugs. Oh, I guess we have some lizards later on. So we'll get to those. But speaking of bugs, there is a beetle. It's black and it has an orange marking on its back. I mean, it's got Halloween written all over it. And they're called burying beetles. And that's because they find corpses of small animals and bury them underground. And then, like, that's their new home. Another word for that is called a decomposer. So it can be like a pair of mated beetles carving out their new crib. It could be multiple pairs. It could just be one beetle, but it's where they mate, it's where they tend their eggs, and it's where they raise their larvae. So the corpse not only serves as shelter, but food for the whole family. But it's also important to note that the burying beetle, the American burying beetle, is an endangered species. So while I am calling for them to be on the cast of characters for Halloween, let's keep them alive. Please don't step on them. If you see one, again, it's okay to scream, but let's try to keep these guys alive so that they can frolic among animal corpses.
What is their natural habitat?
So woodlands to grasslands. So they have a variety of habitats. Ooh, the American burying beetle are not completely understood. But they seem to prefer large, intact areas with little or no human disturbance. So it seems like the likelihood of us coming across a burying beetle, slim, but not impossible. Okay, so that is the burying beetle. I have one more bug to talk about, and I'm so sorry for talking about it, but I can't not. It's ticks. I know. I just got a whole body shiver. I freaking hate ticks. I'm not sure these creatures have any redeeming factors, so we won't even pretend. But obviously, they feed on blood. They are suckers. They don't just lap it up, they suck it. Besides being terrible in that way, they are also known to carry diseases and pathogens. So they can cause Lyme disease, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, Colorado tick fever. There's a ton of terrible things that ticks carry and can pass on to humans and to animals like our pets. Some tick bites can cause temporary paralysis, which is absolutely terrifying. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
And when they bite you, they secrete an anesthetic in their saliva. So you don't even know when they bite you. I'm sure we've all been bitten by a tick at some point in our lives, and you know this. But that's why you don't find it until it's stuck on your body and has been sucking your blood for a few hours. Some, depending on the species, because there's all different types of ticks, some suck for minutes, some suck for days. But let's be real, they all suck just the same.
Once a sucker, always a sucker.
There it is. But yeah, coming back to these things can transmit disease. This makes preventive pet care super important. We're on a pet podcast, so we got to talk about it. For pets that go outside, ticks can latch on anywhere. I've seen videos of people pulling ticks like out of your dog's like gums, like they had like gotten like up into like the bed of your tooth or the pet's tooth. They can be in between your dog or cat's toes. We picked one off of a feral cat's eye, like the corner of their eye, this past summer. So it's really, really important to be vigilant. Check your pets after they go outside, especially during the peak tick season, which in the United States is April through September generally. They're most common in the warmer months. And be proactive. So, like when we're gearing up for spring and summer, check out some flea and tick prevention mechanisms, whether it's a gel that you apply to the skin, whether it's a medicated collar, or whether it's some other approach you want to take. Regardless, always consult your veterinarian for the best advice. If you have any specific questions or concerns, they'll be able to help you find what's right for your pet.
I have one PSA. Just because you have an inside animal does not mean that they're safe. So
It's true.
this is my vet tech hat sitting on right now. Like, I don't know how many times that I've heard like, oh, my pets don't go outside or my cat's an indoor cat. Ticks and fleas and mosquitoes do not know personal space and boundaries. They don't stop at the door. Like, ticks can crawl on you. They can be on your pants, on your socks, on your shoes. You walk inside and then you've just introduced it into your home.
Preach, girl. Preach. Such a good point and so important to bring up. So thanks to Dr. Steph for keeping us all safe. But I think that's enough bug talk for the day, for perhaps the rest of my life. Let's now move on to some creepy reptiles.
Yeah. So we have the Chinese crocodile lizard. They are endangered, poor little guys. But what makes them kind of creepy crawly is their prehistoric look and their crocodilian features. But they also have unusual behaviors for a lizard. So, of course, I had to look into these unusual behaviors for a lizard because I need to know. They are pregnant for 9 months, which is a very, very long time for a lizard to be pregnant. But they're pregnant for so long because they give live birth. They do not lay eggs. Yeah.
That's like gotta be super uncommon, right?
Yeah. No, lizards are supposed to, like most cold-blooded, lay eggs. So
Do you think they're the only? Hang on.
I don't know if they're the only.
It can't be the only one, but I didn't know that was a thing at all. That's fascinating.
Mm-mm.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, I think they look kind of cool. I feel like I've seen them like at the zoo.
They're cute. They kind of look like little like mini kimono dragons,
Yes.
but like small.
Moving on to things that are super fast. The legless lizard. They're not fast, but in my brain, they're super fast.
Okay, I'm sorry. What's the difference between a legless lizard and a snake?
Let me tell you. So they have all the characteristics of a lizard, and they actually sometimes can have little nubbins. I don't know if that's the political word. They call them bumps or scales, but they can have tiny little hands.
Little nubbins. I'm dying.
So, like, for them to be completely legless, okay, but they're not handless. Or what is a lizard hand called?
It's called a nub, and I'm not accepting any other answer.
ChatGPT referred to them as bumps or scales, and I'm like, well, there has to be a word for that.
Okay, so they've got something going on.
They got little littles. So they're called glass lizards or slow worms because they don't. So like lizards, they have what's called is like a self-shedding or autonomy tail, where like if you grab a lizard, like the tail breaks off. They have that as well. But if the tail breaks off, it just grows back shorter, blunter, a different color, and it lacks the bony structure. So just let your mind wander with that. If that doesn't cause enough horror.
What you're telling me is that when a legless lizard loses its tail, it regrows a noodle.
A short, stubby noodle.
All right.
I'm like it makes sense, right? Like, we're not going to create these bones when we grow the tail, but like, is the thing just like flapping in the wind? Like, I don't know.
These are the questions that we need to get to the bottom of.
But they differ in snakes, right? So like, you're like, okay, this legless lizard, isn't it just a snake? Snakes have like a flat body that help them go like on flat surfaces or like up a wall or up a tree. These lizards are like more round body, so they have a harder time moving on flat surfaces.
Right, so don't put legless lizards in a box with snakes. They're not.
Don't put horned toads in a box with toads. They're actually lizards. And when threatened, they squirt a stream of blood from their eye. We're talking like real threatened, right? Like, say a dog were to like pick them up or something like that. And it's not just regular blood. It's supposed to be really foul tasting and it contains chemicals and it's supposed to be like super repulsive. So it makes the animal open its mouth and like drop it out.
Oh my gosh. Out of its eyes?
Out of its eyes. And this is even more diabolical. They eat harvester ants, which are poisonous, which the toad then or lizard then harvests the venom and incorporates it into its own blood. I will eat the venom of my enemies. Oh my God.
Stolen valor vibes. Wow, what the hell?
So yeah, there you go. Some super short fun facts, but like, well, okay.
That's insane. Wow, I feel like we should have led with the horned toad because that is perhaps the most diabolical thing I've ever heard.
I want to say it gets some pretty good like distance.
I mean, it looks like it's really coming out of there like at speed.
5 feet.
Our Google search history is going to be so messed up after this episode. So, this is the last thing. This is the last animal. I guess it's an animal on our list that we would like to put up on the Halloween monster list, if you will. What I'm talking about are tardigrades, lovingly referred to as water bears. These creatures are only about 0.5 millimeter long, but they're known to be able to survive in like crazy extreme conditions. So like some species can live at 272 degrees below Celsius. Others can withstand temperatures of up to 150 degrees Celsius. So like that's to say they don't thrive in these conditions, but they can survive in these conditions, which is pretty crazy. So super resilient. They're found pretty much everywhere in any environment from like the bottom of the ocean to like the top of a mountain, and they can even survive in the vacuum of space. I was like,
Who knows?
apparently research has shown that they can survive radiation, they can survive freezing, dehydration, high pressure, and yeah, even vacuums. So they can even survive in space.
How do we know this? Like, are we torturing these poor guys?
Maybe. We might be. Let's maybe not put animals in space. But the word tardigrade literally means slow paced. So while they're super hardy, they don't really move around a lot. They eat bacteria and plants. Some species are cannibalistic, so meaning they'll eat other tardigrades. And as a final fun fact, they have survived all of Earth's 5 major extinction events. I learned that there have been 5 extinction events.
Right? I was like, I thought there was just one, the dinosaurs.
Apparently that was the 5th one.
Oh.
Yeah. And I mean, as like a final like WTF fact, scientists have posited that there could very well be tardigrades on the moon. How did they get there? I don't know.
Are they truly an animal? Wikipedia, obviously, very reliable, refers to them as micro animals. So I'm going to ruin it for everyone. When we were doing research for this episode and we were pulling this, all I could think about is what scabies look like under a microscope.
Oh God.
Ruin it. Go ahead.
Ah.
Like cousins. So people are like, oh, these guys are so cute. And all I can think of is like, they look like scabies.
You know what it also, they look like the sandworm from Dune.
Yes. Also, I just looked up that they're also called moss piglets.
Oh my God, that's so cute. They're often found in moss. Water bears, moss piglets, micro animals related to arthropods, so related to crustaceans and insects. So, is tardigrades bugs?
Or tardigrade shrimps.
Tardigrades is shrimps is bugs. Okay, I'm done.
They really are. They're in the kingdom Animale. So I don't think scabies are in the kingdom of Animale. So, oh, they are.
They are, yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Are they? They're in the same class as spiders, though.
How does that make you feel? We are all in the same kingdom. Like in the kingdom of kingdoms, we scabies and moss piglets. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. Well, on that note, let's go ahead and wrap up for today. I'm sure everyone is sufficiently creeped out, but at the very least, you learned some fun new facts about animals today.
We hope you've enjoyed hearing the real legends behind Halloween's most iconic animals. From the black cat that brings luck instead of curses, to the toad that's actually a lizard, and spiders who are more scared of you than you are of them.
As you wander into Halloween night, remember, the wild things out there aren't out to haunt you. They're just living their best spooky season lives.
Whether you're handing out candy or hiding from centipedes, we hope you'll look at nature's so-called monsters a little differently this year. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Barking Mad. If you want to learn more about BSM Partners, please visit us at bsmpartners.net. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite leading podcast platform or share it with a friend to stay current on the latest pet industry trends and conversations.
We'd also like to thank our dedicated team, Adamiette Thomas, Neely Bowden, Kait Wright, Katie Wolf, and Dr. Katie Miller. See you next time.